So let me do this. You're recording, right?
Mm-hmm.
So good afternoon. Brian here, Glenwood South Bespoke, founder of Glenwood South Bespoke. Our awesome team member, Mara, is behind the camera today. And she's asking some valuable questions because she is experiencing pattern design, recently graduated from NC State. And my mission has always been to teach and coach creatives on how to value their skill. A lot of creatives are very creative, very mechanically efficient, very tactile adept. Because if you're a creative, you know how to sew in this industry, in this context. If you know how to sew, if you know how to stitch, if you know how to sew on buttons, if you know how to make patterns, if you know how to do the things within the bespoke trade, you have experience with your friends or your family. A lot of times they expect you to do those things for free. That is how you get good, because you're practicing. They're expecting to pay zero to very little, and you're expecting to get the experience. And their expectations are matched. Now, one of the things that a lot of my creatives, especially a lot of the creatives that have gone to NC State, Wilson School of Textiles, don't know, you don't know the business side of it. You don't know how to value what you do. You don't get experience with valuing what you do at market rates, because a lot of times tailors are very, very devalued, because what we have here in Raleigh, North Carolina are a lot of sewing technicians. You have a lot of sewers. You have a lot of alterations places. You don't have a lot of tailors. Tailors and alterations people are different. When you do alterations, you're cutting something, you're lengthening something, or you're shortening something. That's very, very common. That's about 60% of the garments that people purchase and need to take them to like an alterations place. That's why it's fine to go to the mall. That's why it's fine to go to strip centers most of the time, because you're just getting something altered. You're getting something, hem is too long, shorten it. Sleeve on the coat is too long, shorten it. You took it to one mid-level tailor or one mid-level alterations place in the strip mall, and you're like, I'm gonna go to a better place at a mall. So you now have to get it lengthened. So that's alterations. Tailoring is enhancing the garment. Tailoring, not that this is perfect, but tailoring is how you get a shirt to fit this way, right? Proper seams on the sleeves, proper diameter on the sleeves. This is a little snug because I've been getting my dips in, but you know what I'm saying. Collar, chest, that's tailoring. This shirt is a bespoke shirt. So let's get to the topic. Mara, our team member behind the camera, is asking some questions. So she is here about 4 months now, right? About 4 months now. Mm-hmm. And I told you that my passion about making sure the creators know how to value what they do. Because as we know, service is diminishing in our marketplace. That's why places like Nordstrom in Raleigh, North Carolina have degraded their selection. Because a lot of these big box retailers don't invest in people. So the great people leave, because the great people know that they're great. We know that we're great. And so if our organization is not valuing us, then we will leave and find greener pastures, okay? And so Mara, at the beginning of her career, I want her to learn the business side, because she knows the tactile side pretty well. Obviously, there's some learning examples because we're doing a line, but she's got questions about fitting people. Did you know that most people that know how to sew, they don't know how to fit a person? They don't know how to fit a garment. They don't know how to fit a garment for tailoring. Hemming is great. You can go to a small men's shop, like shout out to Gentleman's Corner. Salespeople can pin a pair of 5 pockets for shortening. That's alterations. But can they pin it to taper properly? That's tailoring, right? Can they pin a sport coat properly? Can they pin a sport coat down the back seam properly? Can they pin it in the torso properly? Can they pin the length of it properly? Can they shorten the sleeve properly? Can they taper the sleeve properly? Can they shorten or fit the shoulders properly? That's all tailoring, right? And as we're talking about, these people are a majority of men who want someone who understands how menswear is supposed to fit. So let's get to Mara. Enough of the preamble. So what was your first question, Mara?
Well, along the same lines as what you were saying about creatives not always being valued or not always even knowing their value themselves, I think that can affect the confidence that creatives have when they enter the marketplace and in the jobs that they have. And so, what have been like some key elements that have brought about confidence in you, in your skills in fitting and tailoring?
So my unfair advantage, I like the unfair advantage because that's big. Warren Buffett always talks about that. My unfair advantage is that I love menswear, and I've been wearing it for a long time. And so I know how a men's coat is supposed to fit. That gives me a level of comfort. Now, as a woman, what you can do is you can wear a sport coat a little bit more, so that way your muscle memory is much more is abreast to how seams feel on the body, okay? But getting comfortable with fitting, it is about the feel of the garment. It's about the room that you are feeling that's between the lining and your hands and the person's body. You have to focus on making the garment look better, not perfect. If a client brings in a coat that is like huge, then we know they're coming to have it tailored. And so you want to focus on, typically most sport coats are going to need to be tapered from the side seams. And so you bring it in gradually to make it fit better. Not for it to look tight, not for it to fit perfectly, but for it to fit better. Shorten sleeves, again. Now, if you are just shortening the sleeves, as we said, that's alterations. However, if we're like shortening them from the shoulder, then that would be what? Tailoring, right? Because if a person has surgeon cuffs or functioning buttonholes on their sleeve ending, then it's going to need to be shortened from the shoulder. That is tailoring. But that is when you bring on a menswear expert who knows where that sleeve should hit. Because what we're going to do is we're going to tell the client, all right, cool, we need to look at your shirt length and make sure that's right. And it takes time. So feeling comfortable is about making sure that you focus on the garment looking better, not perfect. Focus there, and it's just like the fundamentals of like football: running, blocking, tackling, and catching. You have to do all of those, but the way that you do those things, that determines your level of like skill. So hopefully I answered that question of like, how do you feel comfortable? Because I focused on making the garment look better, not perfect early on. Next question.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as like when you're fitting clients, that is a very personal thing.
Yes.
Can be a very vulnerable thing for clients that come in. Do you think that clients come in expecting that type of vulnerability, and how do you make them comfortable in the fitting process?
Because it's something that's not taught. You have to just greet the person and speak to the garment. Speak to the garment's challenges. Why are they in here? So for example, you have a client comes in and he's like, yeah, I think it's a little big. If you notice my hands, just it's muscle memory, I went right to the torso and I went right here. I'm gonna position the client in front of the mirror so they can look at themselves. On Savile, a lot of tailors specifically like to put clients in front of the mirror. And once a guy said, you put a client in front of a mirror, they can't be ugly. So that means psychologically, a client has to be a little bit nicer because you're putting them in front of the mirror and then they're looking at themselves. All right. You get in the person's space a little bit because you're the professional. You know this. They don't know that you are a little anxious to be up in someone's space like so. Okay? How's it fit? You're not doing that. Okay? This is what you're doing. Oh, how does this fit? Okay, how does it fit? Oh, great. So what we need to do is we need to bring it in a little bit. This entire time, the person is in front of the mirror. They're looking at themselves. We're going to bring it in through here, and we're going to bring it in through here like so. We're going to give you a little bit more of a silhouette. The language is really, really important. Now, this is not something that you can just do off the bat because this is 15 years of experience. I've been doing this for a long time. I just happen to be very, very fortunate, thank you, God, that I started when I was young, okay, at Nordstrom. As you're bringing it in, you caress the cloth, just caress the cloth, and the client will say, okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And then you start your magic. You start the pinning process, okay? That is for the torso. But you're not necessarily staring at the client, you are looking at the garment. because our goal is to enhance the garment, because we are here for tailoring, right? To make it look better. Tailoring is enhancing the garment. Alterations is just altering the garment. So fitting, comfort, speaking to the garment, showing them, because most of us are very, very visual creatures, showing them where you can accentuate their attributes, their physical attributes. Do they have a prominent chest? Do they have a trimmer waist? Do they have a prominent seat? Okay? So on and so forth. So you get comfortable by speaking to the garment, putting the client in front of the mirror so they're looking at themselves. Next question. What else you got?
That was all my questions.
That was it? Let's see here. Something that a lot of creatives don't know. I would say when it comes to fit, a lot of ladies, as yourself, you sometimes may challenge with telling a guy how his coat needs to fit, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm telling this guy who's older, most creatives are younger, telling this older guy how it needs to, you're speaking to the garment. Speak to the garment. And remember, when you're in a shop like this, there are numerous models, and you can do a little pen around that way. So because I know how things need to fit, the models are going to be representative of the ideal fit that we're going for. Okay? So the client is going to have some confidence because we're visual, and so they're going to say, okay, like, well, I wanted to fit like that. Okay? You need to know the difference. A guy built like me, a guy built like this, a little bit square, a guy fit like this in the pinstripe, a little bit trimmer, different. It takes time is the point. Okay, you're fitting someone older, you have to speak to the garment the same way. But I always like to ask people, what does success look like? And what needs to be changed? What needs to be changed? Ask them what they say, what they see. I typically will open it up. You've heard me say this a lot. I know what needs to happen. You tell me what you see. Establish an authority, right? I know what needs to happen because I know. I know. But tell me what you see. Just because I see a torso, you're like, okay. I'm thinking that fits good. You might say, that's not why I'm here. It's too tight. See? Because I'm looking at the client, I'm looking at the garment. I'm not worried about him. The more you focus on the garment and the desired outcome, the more comfortable you will naturally be. Then once you do that with a little bit more repetition, then what happens is you get used to fitting and talking at the same time. Then as a creative, then you kind of put your spin on it. For me, I'm a business nut. And so I can speak to a lot of different things along the business realm, which is why we curated our clientele. The majority of our clientele are business people, okay? So I know that. But you focus on the garment, and then let the client tell you what they're looking for, what their desired look is. That's it.